Hey everyone, I'm Benjamin, 30 years old. 3 weeks ago, I got a message on my phone that made me pause and actually laugh. Not because it was funny, but because it was ridiculous. My 25-year-old sister, Isabella, who's getting married next month, had sent it. It wasn't a normal, save the date, or some cute thank you note. Nope. It was a wedding gift list with a link to a full PDF file. At first, I assumed it was some joke, but when I opened it, I was stunned. The list started with a brand new white Audi Q5, followed by a deposit for a downtown apartment, and then 3 designer handbags that together cost more than my monthly rent. Under each item, she had written priority in big, bold letters. I just stared at my phone, half amused, half furious. My relationship with Isabella had always been rocky. She was the golden child, my parents' favorite. They spoiled her with everything growing up. When I was driving our old, unreliable family car that barely started in the winter, she was gifted a brand new vehicle at 19. I've worked hard for everything I have, put myself through college, paid off student loans, and finally started saving. Meanwhile, Isabella lived with my parents until last year, jumping from job to job and never paying a cent toward anything. And now she expected me to buy her an apartment? I felt sick reading it. I didn't reply right away. But the next day, she sent another text. Hey, just checking if you saw my list. We need to start getting things ready before the honeymoon. We're counting on you. I honestly thought there'd be a follow-up message saying, just kidding. But there wasn't. She was serious. She actually thought this was my duty. So I finally replied, Isabella, I'm not buying you a car or an apartment. I'll get you something reasonable off a normal registry, but I'm not spending tens of thousands on this. Her response came immediately, as if she'd been waiting for it. Are you kidding me? You're my brother. Families are supposed to help each other. If you're not going to step up, then don't bother coming to the wedding. I sat there numb. Oddly, I didn't feel hurt, just this strange mix of anger and relief. For once, she'd said out loud what I always knew. My sister used every family occasion to manipulate people. I didn't respond again. I figured maybe she'd cool down or my parents would talk sense into her. But instead, the phone calls started. First from my mom, then my dad. Mom didn't even greet me before launching into it. Benjamin, I just talked to Isabella. She's crying. She said you refused to buy her wedding gifts. Do you want to explain what's going on? I took a deep breath. Mom, she asked me to buy her a car and an apartment. That's not normal. I'm not doing it. Mom sighed like I was being difficult. You know she's starting a new chapter. It would mean a lot if you helped her get a good start. My patience was gone. Mom, I have my own life. I'm not putting myself in debt because Isabella can't budget. Then my dad cut in, his tone sharp. If you can't be there for your sister on her special day, then maybe you shouldn't come at all. That hit harder than I expected. My dad and I had always been close, but hearing that broke something. So I said, fine. If that's how you all feel, I won't come. And I hung up. For the next week, silence. No one texted, no one called. Then a friend sent me a Facebook screenshot. Isabella had posted this long, dramatic status thanking her real support system and calling out fake relatives who abandon you when you need them most. Of course, her comment section was full of you don't need toxic people, and you deserve happiness, girl. I wanted to reply, but I didn't. I kept my head down and focused on work until my cousin called. He whispered, dude, the bridal shower was insane. She threw a gift bag at one of your aunts and screamed, if you can't follow instructions, don't bother coming. Half the guests walked out. Your parents are trying to cover it up, but it was bad. I listened in disbelief. It sounded like a disaster, but for once I wasn't the villain. That's when Mom texted me. We need to talk. I hesitated before replying. Part of me wanted to ignore it, but curiosity won. About what? She wrote back. About the wedding. Can you come over tonight? The tone almost made it sound like I was magically invited back, as if nothing had happened. So I went. When I got to my parents' house, the tension hit me like a wall. Dad opened the door with a stiff nod, no smile. Mom sat at the table with a pile of papers, and Isabella was there too, arms crossed, glaring like I had caused all this. Mom started softly. Thanks for coming, Benjamin. We've been talking and we think this has gone too far. The wedding should be a happy occasion. It's time to move past this. I stayed calm. I didn't cause the tension. I got uninvited because I wouldn't buy her an apartment. Isabella scoffed. Oh, please, you always twist things. I never said you had to. I just thought you'd help. You make good money but never do anything for the family. I clenched my jaw. You didn't ask for help, Isabella. You made demands. That's not the same thing. Dad stood up, trying to play peacemaker. Arguing won't help. Here's what we decided. He gestured to the papers on the table. These are a few things Isabella still needs: photographer expenses, rehearsal dinner rental, part of the honeymoon suite. Maybe you could take care of one or two of them as a gesture of goodwill. I skimmed the list. Still expensive. My disbelief turned to laughter. So let me get this straight, I said quietly. She told me not to come if I didn't buy her an apartment. You both agreed. I stayed out of it. She blew up at her own bridal shower. And now you're asking me for money again? Mom shifted nervously. It's not about money, Benjamin. It's about family. People will talk if you're not there. Good, I said flatly. Let them talk. Isabella slammed her hands on the table. Do you realize how embarrassing this is for me? Everyone thinks I'm a spoiled brat because you couldn't keep this private. I stared at her, calm and cold. You made yourself look that way. I didn't do a thing. The room went dead silent. Dad looked speechless. Mom pressed her lips together. Finally, she said quietly, Benjamin, please think about how this makes the family look. If we stay divided, people will think we're broken. I stood tall. Maybe being divided isn't such a bad thing right now. Isabella gave a short, mocking laugh. So you're really skipping my wedding? You're fine with me walking down the aisle knowing my brother doesn't care enough to show up? I met her eyes. I care enough not to let you bully me into buying your happiness. I turned to leave. Mom tried to de-escalate, but Isabella muttered, if he thinks he's getting away with this, he's wrong. I froze but didn't reply. I just walked out. The cold air outside felt sharper than usual, but somehow freeing. For once, I wasn't the one trying to fix everything. When I got home, my phone blew up again, group texts, tags, messages from relatives. Some defended me, others called me heartless. Then, just before midnight, I got a message from my blunt aunt. Benjamin, whatever you're doing, keep doing it. Tonight, Isabella completely lost it. People are finally seeing what you've dealt with. I smiled, not the smug kind, just quiet relief. For once, I wasn't the villain, but that was yesterday. This morning, I found something in my mailbox that made me sit down in disbelief, a wedding invitation. It looked rushed, printed on cheap cardstock. Inside was a single sheet that said, Benjamin, you're invited back to the wedding. Please come. Isabella. No apology, no explanation, just that. And oddly, the RSVP section was scratched out with a pen as if they'd mailed it in a panic. Later, my cousin called again. You won't believe this, he whispered. Isabella's freaking out. Half the bridal party's threatening to quit. Your aunt won't talk to her. 2 uncles said they're not coming, and one of her bridesmaids called her a dictator. Your parents are begging everyone to still attend. I leaned back, half sad, half satisfied. So she wants me there to make it look like everything's fine? I asked. He sighed. Exactly. She's telling people you misunderstood everything. But nobody's buying it. She's unraveling. That night, Dad texted me again. Your sister's struggling. Please don't make things worse. We'd be grateful if you came to the wedding. I stared at that message for a long time. The irony wasn't lost on me. After years of being painted as the problem, the roles had finally reversed. And for once, I wasn't going to apologize for standing my ground. 3 weeks ago, I was the outcast, the problem brother everyone warned to keep his distance. Now, suddenly, I was being invited back, not because they'd had a change of heart or realized they'd wronged me, but because Isabella's own actions had finally caught up with her. She'd burned too many bridges, and they needed me to clean up the mess. That night, I barely slept. Every word, every text, every insult replayed in my mind like a film stuck on repeat. From that ridiculous gift list she sent to her smug tone, her ultimatum, and finally her meltdown at the bridal shower. Years of being told to be the bigger person had built up like pressure in a bottle, and for the first time, I felt like I had some control. For once, she needed something from me more than I needed anything from her. The next morning, Mom called again. Her voice was soft, almost apologetic this time. Benjamin, honey, she began, I know this has been tough. Your sister isn't perfect, she can be a bit much, but she's just under so much stress. Can't we just put this behind us? The wedding is about love and family. Don't you want to be part of that? I inhaled slowly before answering. Mom, I do want to be part of the family, but that doesn't mean letting Isabella treat me like garbage. She asked me for a car, an apartment, designer bags. And when I said no, she tried to guilt-trip me into changing my mind. There was silence on the other end of the line. Finally, Mom sighed. Maybe she went too far, she admitted reluctantly. But she's your sister. If you don't come, she'll never forgive you. I don't think I could handle seeing you two like this forever. There it was, the emotional guilt card I knew would come. I clenched my jaw. If I gave in, Isabella would learn that no matter what she did, I'd always cave. If I stayed firm, I'd be labeled the villain who ruined her big day. That evening, I went for a long walk to clear my head. I passed a small wedding venue where strangers were hanging lights and arranging flowers, laughing as they worked. I pictured Isabella walking down the aisle, glowing with self-satisfaction, convinced she'd won. The thought made me nauseous. When I returned home, there was another message waiting, this time from Isabella herself. It was the longest one she'd ever sent. "Benjamin, I know we've been fighting, but I really want you there. It won't feel right without you. You can bring whoever you want. Please come. I promise it'll be a day we can all look back on happily." For the first time, there was a hint of vulnerability in her words, but something still felt off. It wasn't about reconciliation. It was about appearance. She wanted the perfect photos, the perfect family image. I could almost see her smiling for the camera, pretending none of this ever happened. As I set my phone down, an idea began to take shape, one that felt both satisfying and dangerous. The clarity came later that night when my cousin called. "Dude," he said quietly, "you won't believe this. Isabella's redone the whole seating chart." I grabbed a pen immediately. He explained that Isabella had rearranged the front row so everything would look perfect. My parents seated proudly beside the groom's family. And right in the center, for all to see, was a place card labeled Benjamin plus guest. It wasn't just about me attending, it was about control. She wanted to show everyone that she had managed to make peace, that her family adored her, that even her difficult brother had come crawling back. That was the moment I decided, if I went, it would be on my terms. The next morning, I told my cousin, "Tell them I'll come, but I'm not buying a thing from that list and I'm not changing my mind last minute. They get me exactly as I am, not as Isabella wants me to be." He chuckled. "Oh, this is going to be fun." In the days leading up to the wedding, my phone lit up with messages from relatives thanking me for keeping the peace and saying how happy they were that I was coming. Isabella even sent a single thumbs-up emoji, like a queen approving a truce. The morning of the wedding, I dressed carefully, a navy suit, neat but understated. I wasn't going to make a scene. But I did bring someone, my best friend and old college roommate, Oliver. He'd seen everything, the favoritism, the manipulation, the years of pressure. As we pulled into the vineyard venue, Oliver asked, "You sure about this?" "Not even a little," I said, grinning faintly. The place was stunning, rolling hills, soft music, rows of perfect white chairs. Yet the air shifted the second I stepped out. Conversation slowed. Eyes turned. My mother rushed up, her face a mix of relief and nerves. "Oh, Benjamin. You came," she breathed, hugging me tightly. Dad nodded approvingly, giving me that rare look of quiet pride. Then Isabella appeared, flawless hair, perfect makeup. The picture of bridal grace, except for the flicker of panic in her eyes. "Benjamin," she said sweetly, "I'm so happy you could make it." "Wouldn't miss it," I replied evenly. Her eyes darted to Oliver. "And you brought a guest." "Of course," I said calmly. "Figured if I was being paraded around, I might as well bring backup." She gave a tight smile and glided away to greet someone else. The ceremony was beautiful, just as she'd dreamed. The music swelled, guests gasped, cameras flashed. For a moment, even I felt a pang of nostalgia. But then I remembered every cruel word, every manipulative demand, and I stayed grounded. When the reception began, laughter filled the hall. Glasses clinked, plates clattered. And then came the toasts. I waited until the first dance was over, then stood up, glass in hand. "Hi, everyone," I said. "I'm Benjamin, the brother who wasn't supposed to be here." A ripple of awkward laughter spread through the room. I continued, my tone calm and steady. "I just wanted to say weddings are about love and new beginnings, but they're also about family, the kind that shows up not just when it's convenient, but when it's hard. Respect works both ways, and I think today is a good reminder of that." The room went quiet. A few people nodded. A few looked away. Isabella's face had gone pale. "I didn't buy an apartment," I added, "or a car, or any of the other things I was told to buy. What I did bring was myself on my own terms. I may not be the perfect brother, but I refuse to be the doormat brother." I raised my glass, took a sip, and sat down. For a moment there was silence. Then clapping, scattered at first, then stronger. My aunt, two uncles, even the groom's father joined in. Isabella shot to her feet, muttered something about checking the cake, and stormed off. The rest of the night felt lighter somehow, freer. Relatives came over quietly to thank me for saying what they'd all been too afraid to say. Even Dad placed a hand on my shoulder later and said softly, "You did well, son." Later that night, my cousin sent me a photo from the bridal suite. Isabella sitting on the floor in her wedding dress, mascara streaking down her face, Mom beside her looking exhausted. Apparently, she'd started yelling that everyone had turned against her. "She finally sees it," my cousin texted. Everyone's done catering to her tantrums. Driving home with Oliver, I felt something I hadn't felt in years, peace. For once, I hadn't folded, hadn't apologized, hadn't tried to fix everything. I'd stood my ground publicly. The next morning, Mom sent me a message that made me pause. "Benjamin," she wrote, "I know last night was hard, but you did the right thing. Maybe this will finally wake her up." I stared at those words for a long time, then smiled. The cycle was broken. Whether Isabella changed or not was no longer my responsibility. I was finally free, and that was the most liberating feeling in the world. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to leave a comment. Hit subscribe, follow for more, and turn on the bell icon so you never miss the next one.